Welcome to the Steroids Podcast with your host, Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Boom! Boom! Let's get started here. The Steroids Podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. Now, for the first time in bodybuilding history, you have someone with no corporate interests and no obligation to please anyone, not walking on eggshells to not offend. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the information, the whole truth, not a full truth and a half truth, full truth. Ultimate Guide to ROIDS gives you the keys to the Lamborghini, gives you the information, and lets you decide what to do with it. It's a crime this information has been suppressed this long. Now let's get on with the podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Steroids Podcast. The first question for today is from Zomparelli, who asks, question for the pod. I had a blood test and had very low testosterone as I had come off completely from blasting and cruising for 2 years. So I decided to get straight back on cycle, doing 1.5 grams of testosterone enanthate per week and 500 milligrams of Masteron per week. As soon as I started pinning, I got achy joints, brain fog, and depression. Typically, I never need an AI on cycle. Any idea? Yeah, so it sounds like you had an inflammation reaction. So you hit it so hard after you had been completely off without a ramp up that your body's in shock and it's responding to the presence of a lot of gear in it as if there's some kind of threat, similar to the way that it would respond to an illness or something. There's a substance that it's not used to. You haven't been on cycle for 2 years, and so it's not used to it anymore. And that you haven't not been on cycle. You had been off completely. You're not used to artificial hormones anymore. And then you came back with 2 grams right away, which then caused an inflammation reaction inside your whole body. Getting achy joints and brain fog, depression. The inflammation is a major contributor to depression, anxiety, and other mental conditions. Getting rid of brain inflammation or trying to limit oxidative stress in the nervous system and brain are ways of dealing with certain neurological diseases and trying to manage them. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. So just in general, inflammation is a precursor or a contributor, an active contributor in most conditions that are affecting the brain. When you get achy joints, again, that's also another inflammatory condition. I mean, arthritis is an inflammatory condition. So you kind of have like several symptoms of inflammation going on at the same time. And I'm sure that, 1.5 grams of test, that's like 6 milliliters, and 500 milligrams of Masteron. So that's like 11 milliliters of injections going on per week too. It's going to cause some inflammation. So, it's going to take some time to get used to it. It's going to take some time to get used to it again for your body to accept it. Typically that takes like a month. Just in general, it depends. It depends though. The first time you start testosterone, most people get something like this, where for 2 or 3 weeks, they're not feeling good. It definitely depends on the person. Not everybody gets that, but a lot of people on their first cycle will get like a testosterone flu that definitely has inflammation involved there too. Achy joints, like you said, and just like feeling sick, feeling like shit for a couple weeks. So, Trenbolone does it too. Trenbolone does it whenever you start a new trend cycle. It's every time you start a new trend cycle, for most people, there's going to be like an initial 1 week break-in period where your body kind of freaks out and says like, I don't like this. What is inside of me? And so you can get things like histamine reactions. You can get things like a little bit of like a hives and stuff on your skin. I mean, it happens. You get these like irritation. You can tell your body is irritated. It's stressed. It feels something in it that it doesn't want to be there. Something that's irritating it and making it feel attacked. And then after about a week, somewhere between like 5 to 10 days, typically on Trenbolone, then someone will normalize it to it. You know, so your body then accepts it. And so that's what I'm saying again is the thing that's happening with you right now, Zomparelli, is that it's probably going to take a little bit for your body to accept it. And since you've been off gear completely, I'd err on the long side of how long it's going to take your body to accept it. I think it'll probably take like maybe 3 or 4 weeks for you to feel normal on that cycle after having been off for a long time. Okay, next question is from Nick, who asks, I just finished a cut cycle and I'm cruising. I'm doing my first bulk cycle for 6 months. 500 tests, 250 equipoise per week, and 50 milligrams Anadrol to start getting up to 1,000 milligrams test and 1,000 milligrams equipoise, and Masteron in there for a little bloat control and non-muscle building benefit. Gonna finish the cycle with another oral for some fun too. Try some stuff out. That's a good idea, because you said this is like your first bulking cycle, and so you've got a few different compounds happening, and you're like trying a couple different orals out, because that's the thing that you got to do when you're becoming a bodybuilder, is you've got to figure out what steroids like really agree with your physiology, and trial and error is how you do that. You take some stuff and you figure out what you feel good on. And once you figure out what you feel good on, then you start taking a lot of that stuff, and that makes you bigger and stronger. And you start eating more food and lifting heavier weights for more reps and more sets, and that makes you bigger and stronger. So he says he's trying some stuff out, assuming he's eating 300 grams plus of protein per day and gaining a pound per week from a energy surplus. How much muscle can I gain with much better than average genetics too? Like pure contractile muscle stage weight, not total lean weight. Okay. So you just mean, how much can you gain in muscle that is not just, cosmetic effective steroids is essentially what he's asking. So 6 months on a reasonable amount of steroids, 1,000 test, 1,000 equipoise is what he's going to work up to, and Anadrol 50 milligrams, and he's going to do that. He's going to do a couple oral cycles. So I'd say he's looking at something like 10 solid pounds of muscle, like stage weight increase, 10 pounds over 6 months. And that, you said that you got good genetics, and this is your first bulk cycle. And if you're hitting the gear like that and you're getting progressive overload in the gym and you're eating, yeah, you should be able to gain about 10 pounds of pure fucking muscle tissue in 6 months. But the body weight gain that will accompany that is going to be something more like 20 to 25 pounds. And then, so that will be the extra fuel storage, the extra water, maybe a tiny bit of fat that comes along with it. And then once you get rid of that, the total hard tissue gained will probably be about 10 pounds. Your first time bulking on steroids, you can make really massive gains. Using things like Trenbolone or Anadrol or Winstrol in someone's first cycle trying to gain a lot of muscle mass can be damn right frightening, because their body is changing at such a rapid pace from being not used to hormones and then being on such powerful hormones and being weightlifting and eating and shit. It can really be a shocking thing that happens. So I think you can gain about 10 pounds of pure muscle. Okay, Johan asks, I'm sick of having small nuts and loads after 4 years blasting and cruising. I want to start running low-dose HCG to maintain testicle size and function, and also to make it easier when I do decide to come off, as I will be looking to have kids in the next 24 months. My question is, should I start at something like 500 IUs HCG every 3 days, or would you recommend doing a bomb dose of 2000 IU a couple of times a week until nut size comes back before dropping back down to a maintenance dose of 500 IU? Okay, so the thing is with the HCG is that this stuff, dosage matters, but frequency matters a lot with HCG. So ideally, like, if you're having a really, like, an issue with HCG, like, you know, you're having a hard time getting your nuts to, like, not be atrophied, because that's really the big thing with, like, becoming fertile again, is you have to make the nuts not be, like, small. You have to get them back to normal size, and they have to be hanging at the right level to maintain the right temperature to be producing healthy sperm. So that's what HCG's purpose is, to, like, really hit that system and get that stuff working. And so a normal dose that people will take on cycle to maintain some testicular function and size on cycle. And it also increases the amount of semen people produce, because when you are taking steroids, it decreases the amount of semen that you produce. So HCG increases that. And 500 IUs twice a week, subcutaneous shot, is a good dose for that kind of, like, maintenance, maybe 75% or so of natural testicular function while on a steroid cycle. And then you can get higher. You know, if you're going for fertility, and you want to be, like, mostly, you know, like, pretty fertile while you're using steroids, then 500 IU every other day, or 1,000 IUs every other day, subcutaneous injection, should keep the testicles functioning around 85, 90% while you're on cycle, if you do that. But that's a lot of HCG. Like, we're talking 1,000 IUs every other day. So that's 3,500 IUs a week, which is, almost a whole vial of HCG per week. If somebody wants to be on cycle, they've been shut down for a long time, and they're looking to get started back up, it'd be good to start out with 500 IUs every other day and see what happened after a week or 2 weeks. And then if the desired effect with the descended testicles with a, non-atrophy, not having the small size anymore, if the effects hadn't occurred yet, raise it to 1,000 IUs every other day and continue that for a month. And, I think that there's going to be something happening after a month, probably before, but usually, if we do 1,000 IUs every other day for a month, we're going to get some kind of a reaction or some kind of an effect here. And if there still is not, then, you'll have to wait till your next cruise. And you have to probably just come off for a month and take HCG when you're not on roids for a month. And that will have a stronger effect on bringing the testicles back. And you'll be able to benefit from the HCG more that way. So, no, I don't recommend the bomb dose. I just don't think the HCG works well like that, because it's more of a, taking it every other day or taking it every day even thing that really seems to work. Anecdotally seems to really work. But just taking like 5,000 IUs like once per week or something like seems like not to work as good as taking, like 500 IUs every other day, seems superior than 5,000 IUs once per week. So yeah, it really isn't about the bomb dose on the HCG. And, keep in mind also HCG is just a hormone with no ester. It doesn't have any kind of prolonged life in the body like testosterone enanthate, which is keeping, the enanthate is keeping that testosterone active in your body long term. HCG doesn't have something like that. So rather than, pulsing bomb doses like you mentioned, hitting more frequency, you'll notice more success in restoring fertility. Okay. Next question is from Maddie. Asks, hey Dan, I'm a massive fan and a long-time listener from Sydney, Australia. To get to the point, I've been using 600 milligrams of testananthate, 400 milligrams equipoise, and 200 milligrams of Masteron Prop for 9 weeks now. Have had zero issues, but suddenly am having anxiety attacks and some really long-lasting PIP after some pins. I've used a 23 gauge 1.25 inch pin for ventral glutes and glutes, and a 25 gauge 5/8 pin for delts. Should I be concerned with PIP lasting, post-injection pain is PIP, lasting more than 5 days? And do you believe the equipoise is causing major anxiety? I would just like a second opinion. I have been to a doctor, and they dismiss me as soon as I tell them that I'm taking testosterone. Okay, I'm not a doctor. So you're using 600 test, 400 EQ, and 200 Masteron, and you've been on that. And you didn't have issues, and then you started having issues. And then you started having post-injection pain too, whereas you weren't before. So that shows that unless you switched vials, like, did you switch vials? Is this a new vial? And that's a new vial that is like potentially not, a good one, and it's causing this? Or are you still using the same vials? And, everything just started happening out of the blue? Because if everything did start happening out of the blue, then you'd kind of be like the first guy that we were talking about, is that you're having some kind of like reaction where your body is like, it doesn't, it's become like more reactive to what you're putting into it. So the other guy hadn't been on gear for a couple of years. And so of course he's more reactive, to, side effects, of gear, and more just reactive in general, with his body having like a freak out reaction to having a foreign substance inside of it. So, if you've had everything the same and now all of a sudden out of nowhere, you're having inflammation, post-injection pain that wasn't there before, you're having anxiety attacks, I would say that you are more reactive now than you've been on other cycles. So you have to figure out, why are you more reactive? Are you super stressed or something like that? Something to calm things down, like ibuprofen or Benadryl, can be helpful in some of these situations. Like we were talking about with Tren earlier, and when somebody goes on like a Tren, and you can get reactive side effects to that, and some of them can be like, you can get like little hives or like little like blister things like on your hands or on your fingers or something, and they can be like itchy and stuff, and that's a histamine reaction. So you can get rid of it by taking some Benadryl, or at least help it by taking some Benadryl. So that's why I say like Benadryl, it's an antihistamine. It reduces reactiveness to histamine, and ibuprofen reduces inflammation, and that's pretty much, that's how to take care of that. I don't think that you have a problem with the injections. 23 gauge, 1 1/4 inch is a good length, and for the glutes, and your deltoid injection is going more than 1/2 inch. Equipoise does cause anxiety for some people. One thing you could try doing is raising your testosterone, You did not comment about an AI, but some people do get powerful AI effects from a metabolite of baldenone, which is similar to exemestane. And so it's a suicide aromatase inhibitor, meaning it removes estrogen from the body. And that is a metabolite of equipoise baldenone. So some people who are not big estrogen producers will take equipoise and get their estrogen floored and get an anxiety reaction as a result of that. And so raising your testosterone up until you get an estrogen reaction and seeing if that solves the problem could be one way of troubleshooting this. Is that's really what you're looking for here, is you're having issues, and so we have to start going through things to troubleshoot your issues. It's not a straightforward issue. It's not clear. That's basically your question, is why are you having this phantom symptom? So basically the procedure is that we have to start then going down through possible causes and figuring out what it is and what it's not. And just having experience helps with that, so that you've seen like other cases and been able to be like, okay, well, when I hear these kinds of words or these kind of effects being said, I have experience with whatever past guy and makes me think of that. It's that kind of a thing. This kind of troubleshooting. It just it's one of those things that you get better at as you've been doing this for more years, and sometimes it takes a few days to figure out what the problem is, and sometimes it takes a few weeks to figure out what the problem is. But I don't think that you wouldn't be able to fix this. Like if you're having anxiety attacks and inflammation from gear, one way to just get rid of the problem would be to stop taking all the stuff that's not natural. So only being on testosterone, I'm pretty sure your problems will go away. So we kind of are able to say, yeah, it's this not natural hormones that you're taking. You're probably having a reaction to that. I really doubt it's the testosterone. So yeah, there's a few things you can troubleshoot, you can try to help fix your issue. Andrew asks, I'm 39, lift weights, and eat a high-protein diet. I work out like a bodybuilder, but only use gear and HCG. Ever since about 4 to 5 years ago, my sex drive has not been great, and at times none at all. It's widely known that Masteron increases sex drive, and I am no different. Wanting to have sex regularly is important to me, hence my question, do you see any negatives on running Masteron at the lowest effective dose alongside testosterone as an hormone replacement therapy protocol? Or do you think I should take breaks from the Masteron? So generally this would look like something like 250 milligrams of testosterone per week or 200 milligrams of testosterone per week with 200 milligrams of Masteron per week. That's basically what he's asking about. And, is it, using that long term, he's asking about that. And so you're going to want to look at your health when you're doing that. If that's something you want to learn, that's something you want to potentially use long term. So while you are on the Masteron and testosterone hormone replacement therapy protocol that you're wanting to use, you should take your blood pressure, you should take your resting heart rate, you should take a complete blood count, and you should take a comprehensive metabolic profile, and you should do these things over the course of months. Like say you're on it, you're if you want to do something like this, using it long term, well, you could start using it for like potentially a year and make checks like every 3 months and see how things are going, see how you're reacting to it, seeing if any of those things are going off, see if your organs handle it good, see if you feel good on it, see if your blood handles it good, see if all your markers are good, and making those periodic checks for several months. And then if your blood pressure and your heart rate is good too, because you always want to be checking, the circulatory system. And then the other thing you could start doing too is every couple of years, you could do something like get a calcium scoring scan. And the first time, probably after the first year of doing this too, and before you started doing it, you could also get a calcium scoring scan. This measures how much plaque you've got in your heart and main arteries. And so this is one of the, again, circulatory system damage is, the main thing that kills bodybuilders, because we have most bodybuilders dying from heart-related things. So if you are able to be on this Masteron and testosterone, and you're not depositing plaque in your heart or arteries, and your blood work is good, your blood pressure is good, your heart rate is good when you're resting. And then the other thing to get that could check out for any problems would be a stress test echocardiogram, where they look inside of your heart while you are exercising at maximum capacity with a max heart rate. And they look at all the valves and switches inside of your heart, and the thickness of the chambers, etc., the size of the heart, and make sure that everything's running good. A cardiologist, totally looks at your heart when it's working at mass capacity, and, your heart is completely naked to his, evaluation. And so if you have all this information and you're running the Masteron with the testosterone long term, and it's all good, I wouldn't see any reason to say that you couldn't do that long term. So, as long as you were healthy, as long as all those things were healthy, then to me, it looks like you've taken care of the large risk factors and, really minimized the risk of your hormone use. And, no one can control the future 100%, but it looks like you've done a good job of controlling it as much as you can. And now going forward with that doesn't seem to be a really high risk thing to do. So that's my opinion on that. Each guy's going to be different. People respond to steroids very differently with side effects. Some guys can take stuff with no side effects, and other guys cannot. Some guys can take stuff without getting hurt, and other guys cannot. It's the same thing with like alcohol and shit like that. Like if you went to university, some guys can just do that stuff without as much consequences physically as other guys. And it's just the way they're built. And it's the same thing with steroids. Some guys are able to use steroids, huge amounts of steroids, different types of steroids, long-term using steroids without taking a break. Some guys are able to do this without hurting their health as much as other guys that are taking the same thing. And that's just the way it is. So, yeah, I think you have good information now, Andrew, to make a good decision about using the testosterone and the Masteron long-term as a HRT. Okay, Fredo asks, question for the pod. How long should you wait between cycles? The first cycle, you're full of energy and your mood is great. Is it possible to get that again? Okay, so the least amount of time that you're going to benefit from being off cycle is going to be a month. Because it takes about a month of being off cycle, either on 1 milliliter of testosterone or nothing. It takes about 1 month to recover your blood work markers and your general physical state, so that it's the same as if like you hadn't been taking steroids. If you've been taking like pretty much any steroid cycle and you don't have any like acute problems, like, you're fine, you're on your steroid cycle and you're fine, and now you finished it. Now, like for your blood work, for a person's blood work to return to normal, like the same that it was before they'd used those steroids, it takes like 4 to 5 weeks. It takes about 1 month. And you know what? 5 weeks, you can pretty reliably say that, or predict, you can pretty reliably predict that, yeah, the levels are going to look normal. This person's general health markers after a month of not being on a steroid cycle are going to look normal. That's how it goes. So if guys that don't want to go off, guys that are very, very motivated, and of course you don't want to go off steroids if you're very, very motivated, because you have to use those steroids to make progress. And so if you can just go off for 1 month, you can get like a reset on your health and on your organs and everything, so that everything's just, 100% cool again and, not stressed at all. And that definitely will benefit you. So I definitely think the shortest amount of time where you can get a benefit, and it's definitely worth it to take a cruise and to go off cycle, is 1 month. And then if you go past 3 months and you have significant steroid muscle on your body, if you go past 3 months without using more than 1 milliliter of testosterone, and you're not using anything else, just 1 milliliter of testosterone and nothing. If you go longer than 3 months, you're going to start noticing a deterioration. And it's going to start going away more. And so I don't think that and also during those 3 months that you're off, it's like, you're not going to be making gains, and if you're a very serious, motivated bodybuilder, that's not what you want to be doing. You're very motivated to be doing like, every fucking day, more gains. So 3 months would be the longest that I think a serious bodybuilder should be cruising. So we get a range of 1 to 3 months, depending on your goals, how serious the person is, and also, taking into considerations like how serious they are about protecting their health. We can get somewhere in that sliding scale of 1 to 3 months cruise duration, off cycle duration, and pretty much find something that's going to fit for everybody in there. So that's how long, Fredo asks, how long should you wait between cycles? I think the answer to that is between 1 to 3 months. And, your first cycle, you can definitely feel great again on another cycle, but your first cycle is pretty cool because you're changing yourself big time. You're a natural person, and now you're like a hormonized person after that. And like, man, everything about you changes, even like your face and everything. Like, it really changes you a lot. And if you went completely off gear for 6 months, like no hormones, you would really change a lot, okay? And people around you would see that. So like if you cruise it, so I'm going to go back on that. And I'm going to say, you're not going to be able to get that first cycle feeling again. That first cycle feeling, energy and mood, that's like a one-time thing, because it's so cool. It's so cool seeing the look that you've always wanted. If you wanted to be a bodybuilder but didn't know how to do it, it's so cool, like seeing the look on your shoulders and your arms and forearms and traps and stuff start to materialize, and it's that look that you always wanted and everything. So that's like very exciting and very like vindicating, and being like, yes, I'm finally doing it. I'm finally getting this thing that I always wanted to be doing but didn't know how to be doing. So no, I don't think you'll ever be able to, your first cycle is a very awesome memory. It was fucking awesome. And I don't think you're going to be able to replicate that kind of feeling again, but it's something you can always remember and be like, that was cool, and tell a great story about it, hopefully, because hopefully you really worked hard during that first cycle. Okay. Next question. Subhan asks, everyone is advising me against it. What's your thought on adding Superdrol low dose last 2 to 3 weeks of my Rebound reverse dieting phase after my bodybuilding contest? Okay, so why is everyone advising against it? Probably because they don't want you to get big, honestly. Because like, what person ever does advise like bodybuilders, like, yeah, take like serious bodybuilding dosages and like serious compounds of stuff. Like, yeah, that would be a great idea. Do that. I don't hear anyone saying that. The only stuff that I hear people like recommending is, stuff that is like, for a guy who likes going to the gym and, he wants to go on vacation and look good in his pictures from his beach vacation or something. That's the kind of PED cycles that I hear people recommending, but I don't ever hear anybody recommending, serious bodybuilding cycles ever, people aren't doing that. So yeah, people probably are advising you against that, like, because, maybe they're not willing to do it. And if you do it, you're just going to get too fucking big and too fucking strong on Superdrol, Estrol. But I really do think that the threshold dosage on Superdrol, in order to get the correct effects that are the characteristic effects of the medicine, of the supplement, of the pro-hormone, of the designer steroid, is 30 milligrams per day. I don't think that you will get the characteristic effects of the chemical without hitting that threshold dosage of 30 milligrams per day. So in my opinion, for it to act correctly, Superdrol to act correctly, 30 milligrams per day must be reached. And the effects of that are, a lot of strength, a lot of fullness, etc. But if it's not used for an extended period of time, if it's only used for like 3 weeks or something like that, well then, of course, you're just going to be using it in that case to be able to work out with heavier weights and get your body adapting to some heavier weights, because the Superdrol is going to, pump you up with fuel storage and pump you up with strength and make you be able to handle heavier weights than you're handling without it, So, but you're not going to, if you only run it for like 3 weeks or something, you're not going to come away with like tissue gains, really, very minimal from the Superdrol. It would need to be run more like 5 or 6 weeks to be getting that kind of an effect out of it. But it will allow you to be training with those heavier weights so that you will have had some adaptation to those. And then in that situation, when you're only running Superdrol for 2 to 3 weeks, like Subban asks, you're using it as a plateau breaker. You're utilizing the Superdrol as something to break plateaus by being able to lift heavier weights temporarily and work out with them. And then when you come off of it, you've built some adaptation to being able to use those heavier weights. And likely you've broken your plateau that you had before you used it. So that's what I think. And then the other thing that people complain about, like orals, I hear a lot of complaining about orals, about Superdrol. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one that like has the most problems. But I just hear a lot of complaining about orals in general. Like, people say like, oh, it gives them problems and stuff. I like wonder a little bit about it. Like I know that there are some side effects to orals, but it seems like it's overdone. Cause like, people say like, how could you possibly use 100 milligrams of Anadrol per day? And like, bro, I've taken 350 milligrams of Anadrol per day. And yeah, it fucked me up, but I was, really serious about the bodybuilding, and, being stronger and bigger and more powerful was like the most important thing. And so even though, my eyes were, totally red, and, I could barely get out of bed and I could only eat like 1 meal per day, I was still making it into the gym, and I was lifting like the heaviest weights I had ever lifted to that point. Okay. I wouldn't do that again, but I'm just being honest with you right now, saying the things that I've done with some of these steroids. So, and yeah, I had a ton of really bad heartburn, and acid reflux, during this. Okay. So I'm not saying it was comfortable, but I just feel like sometimes like, are people just like fucking pussies or something, or are they like weekend warriors, or like, people who are like, like they're not like a serious bodybuilder, but like they want to get fit. And so like maybe things that are like inconvenient cannot be handled or something like that. But I mean, that was always the way it was. I always felt like I'm only coming off these fucking steroids if I fucking have to or something. That's like a bodybuilding mindset. That's a bodybuilding mindset. People are really serious about it. Bodybuilding is no joke. People are dead serious about bodybuilding. Yeah, so the Superdrol, if you're getting acid reflux, because that is a serious problem that will make you want to stop taking orals is acid reflux because it interferes with your eating. So famotidine, which is also a plaque calcium chelator in the circulatory system, so it can help remove plaque. Famotidine 20 milligrams twice per day, that's an OTC medicine, also known as Pepsid AC, the brand name, can really help with your acid reflux. And then also drinking baking soda, 1 tablespoon as a shot in water can also help it. And then you're going to have to look at what meds are you on, because Tren causes acid reflux, metformin causes acid reflux, clenbuterol causes acid reflux, and oral steroids cause acid reflux. So you're going to have to look on how many compounds are you on that cause acid reflux. And, maybe you might have to limit the amount of compounds that you are on, and then, using also these measures to help prevent it, like the famotidine and the baking soda, sodium bicarbonate. And, this could help you be able to use orals and be able to tolerate them for longer periods of time. Also, some people have trouble digesting meat fats on orals, and usually that will be because of the liver bile that is being secreted becoming toxic. And so a lot of times that can be fixed by taking TUDCA, which is a healthy liver bile, which will help to digest those fats that are being not digested, and then giving you diarrhea or whatever when you're using oral steroids. Overall, there are ways, part of the game, we were talking about earlier is, genetic resistance to side effects, but there are also tricks to mitigating side effects and getting rid of side effects. Knowing the tricks and how to manage side effects is definitely a part of the bodybuilding game. So it's a combination of genetic resistance to side effects, and then plus the tricks that how to manage side effects. And, some of you guys, though, the orals just don't agree with you at all. As soon as that shit, hits your body just rejects it. So I feel for you guys. But for everybody else, there are ways around it, and orals are fun. So one of the questions that somebody asked earlier was something about having fun with 2 orals in a cycle, starting with it and ending with it, and then having the middle with no oral. And I agree. That shit's fun. It's fun to take orals. All right, next question is from Dean, who asks, "Hey, mate, been reading through your book, Ultimate Guide to ROIDS. Some really good information and guidance on everything. It's a really interesting read and very helpful. Was wondering if you could give me some advice. I'm currently running 750 testosterone and anthate, pinning 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Also running Primobolan at 300 milligrams, pinning the same days. I have Aromasin on hand and have been taking 25 milligrams once a week. The issue I'm having is my left nipple is experiencing some issue. There's slight tissue behind it, experiencing some discomfort. It'll be some form of gyno, no doubt." Okay, so it's only one nipple, which is not uncommon. So his left nipple, but not the right nipple. So that is a thing with bodybuilding, is that when you start to get gyno or something, it very rarely would be both nipples at the same rate. Normally it's one nipple, and it can go from one, it's not always the same side or something, but usually one nipple is going to start showing symptoms or side effects faster than the other. So that is totally normal to have one nipple having problems. If the problems continued, it would become both nipples. But, when it starts, for it to be one problem. Bilateral gynecomastia issues. So he says, according to the information in my book, running Nolvadex will help with this issue. Okay, and so he says, can I run the Nolvadex to calm the discomfort in my nipple and having Aromasin to reduce total estrogen levels? Yeah, so that's pretty much what you should do. So the first thing, when you feel gyno, okay? So if you are using steroids, you're using testosterone, whatever, you start feeling gyno. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to reduce your systemic estrogen levels. So you're going to want to take an AI. And so that's either going to be Arimidex and Anastrozole, or it's going to be Letrozole, Femara, or it's going to be exemestane aromasin. Those are the aromatase inhibitors that decrease the total amount of estrogen in your body. And whenever you feel estrogen side effects, that's what you want to do, is decrease the amount of estrogen that is in your body. And so an aromatase inhibitor is taken, either Arimidex, exemestane, or Letro, okay? And then if you're having like a serious problem with gyno, and you're like trying to manage your estrogen with the AI, but it's like hard for you, and you're having trouble keeping a lid on it, and it feels like you're chasing it all the time. You can't just get it down and keep it down and keep it comfortable there and have the gyno irritation. You know, you're starting to get some irritation in your nipple. You can't just get it to go away easily, you know? So now what you can do is you can continue using the AI to try and bring that systemic estrogen level down. But since you're having a difficult time bringing that systemic estrogen level down and keeping it down, you can also use an estrogen receptor blocker, which is what Nolvadex tamoxifen is. Okay. And that drug has a specific affinity for the estrogen receptors in the nipple, okay? Because it's a selective estrogen receptor modulator. What that means is that it has specific affinity for certain tissues in the body, the estrogen receptors on certain tissues in the body, but then on other tissues in the body, it really does not have a high affinity. That's what selective estrogen receptor modulator means. So you are going to, Nolvadex is very selective specifically in the nipple. And so it really goes to that spot and affects that tissue more than other tissue in the body, blocking the estrogen receptor there. So if you're trying to bring down the total body estrogen levels, but you're having a difficult time and you're getting gyno and you're taking the AI and it's not working, you can stack the Nolvadex on top of that to specifically block the estrogen receptor in the nipple, so that now you're working on reducing your total body estrogen levels. And while you're doing that, your specific estrogen receptor in the nipple is blocked. And a lot of times that's going to, be able to help you a lot. But the main thing is getting control of that total estrogen level. And, that may, that you can consider reducing aromatizing compounds, or there are certain combinations of anti-estrogens, such as using letrozole and exemestane together, that can really reduce someone's estrogen and allow them to use those highly aromatizing compounds where otherwise they really just couldn't do it because they're high estrogen producers, and they'll be constantly chasing their estrogen, taking multiple AI pills per day, which is absolutely no fun. Okay. Next question is Mode asks, my question is, after building a decent amount of muscle on 3 to 4 cycles, and let's say you completely stopped working out for a half a year and lose everything, how long and what kind of cycle would bring you back to the same level you were at before? Okay. So this is a really good question. So if you stop using anabolics and you stop working out and you lose your muscle, how do you get it back and how long will it take? So the muscle, if you've been using anabolics and you've been using them for a period of years, your muscle has permanently changed for the rest of your life. It has different genetic information in it. It has more nuclei in the muscle cells. Muscle cells are a form of tissue with a lot of nuclei per cell. And because of that, there can be multiple nuclei in one muscle cell. And in the muscle cells, and that's the genetic information, and in the muscle cells of long-term steroid users, even after they've come off of steroids for 10 years, if you cut the muscle and look at it with a microscope, their muscle has way more genetic information and more nuclei per cell than a natural. So the muscle has been permanently programmed with the information to be the size and strength that it had been on anabolics. So your muscle, the information inside it is changed. It knows how strong you were, and it knows how big you were. And now it's going to react, and it's going to go there, provided the conditions for making that happen are the same as they were before. So if you run the same doses of steroids that you were running before, and you get up to lifting, handling the weight of the same weights that you were handling before, and your body, with that genetic information that is stored in it from when you were using steroids before and getting big and strong before, is going to be on a beeline going back to where it was before, because it has the information, now it has the hormones again, and now it's being exposed to the stress again. So if you have those factors, you're lifting the weights that you lifted before, or you're getting up to them as quickly as possible and getting under the bar for even, a couple reps with those old weights, your body, and you're having the hormones that you used before, the cycles that you were taking before, then your body is going to just go boom back to that spot. So, we're talking like, 3 to 6 months, if you're doing it, hardcore and you're fully on it like you were before, fully taking everything seriously like you were before, we're talking like 3 to 6 months to, really, 3 to bring back something that's like, damn, man, like you have fucking morphed. And then 6 months to be like, okay, like, he's looking, in the ballpark of where it was before. And, not longer than a year, it's most likely going to be more towards 6 months. So the regain of your steroid physique is way easier than getting it for the first time. Okay. Getting those muscles to grow back once you've had them before is nowhere near as hard as it is to make them grow for the first time. Okay. And that's the same thing with the strength acquisition too, and getting back to those strength numbers. Okay. Connor asks, hey bro, what sort of anabolics would you use if money wasn't an option, if money wasn't a factor? Going for that classic physique look, not a mass monster, more aesthetic look. What would you stack? Okay, I think a good idea to stack would be a moderate dose of testosterone with an anabolic. So we're talking about, we're not talking about mega doses of testosterone. We're talking about moderate doses of testosterone. So we're talking about 1,000 or 1,500-ish milligrams per week of testosterone. A mega dose of testosterone is 1 vial a week or more. It is not 1,000 milligrams, a few milliliters per week of testosterone. That's not a mega dose. It's a moderate dose. Okay. Maybe it's a mega dose to someone on TRT. Maybe that's what a TRT person think is a mega dose, but it's not. Okay. And so a moderate dose of testosterone with Primobolan and Anavar is going to be your best way of getting there with a little bit of growth hormone. Okay. If you take Anavar, Primobolan, testosterone, and you take a little bit of growth hormone, and you get strong and you get lean, you're going to have a great physique. You're going to have a fucking great physique. Everybody's going to think you have an awesome looking body, and it's going to be more of a golden era look. Yeah. So we're talking like 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of testosterone and Primobolan, 50 milligrams Anavar per day. You can go up to 100 milligrams of Anavar per day. But these kind of things with like 4 IUs of growth hormone, 3 IUs of growth hormone, and take a little bit of thyroid with that too, so to make the growth hormone work better. So 200 micrograms or 150 micrograms of thyroxine T4. Take that with it. That's going to be a great look. Another, the golden era cycles, where a lot of them were using cycles that ran in this vein, was shots of Deca with pills of Dianabol. So like Sergio Oliva and Arnold, when he was younger, before he got ripped, when he was using a lot more Primobolan and growth hormone, which made him more ripped, and finally Trenbolone in the 80s. But before that, D-ball and, shots of Deca, and then taking a lot of D-balls during the day. So Arnold trained with Sergio Oliva at Sergio's house, and Sergio told Arnold that it was mostly Dianabol tablets with Deca shots, but mostly Dianabol tablets. That's how he was doing it. And so that is a cycle, Deca and D-ball, that was the cycle for a long time, for a long, long time. Probably not until the late 90s was popular cycles, not Deca and D-ball anymore. That was the popular cycle to like be using in a gym before that for most people. So that would be a good one. That would be a good one to use. You know, Winstrol, Anavar, Primobolan, you're going to be getting more of a look that is pleasing, that people like to see it. Trenbolone, you're going to be getting a very freaky, very non-human, very alien look. High doses of growth hormone, same thing's going to be happening. Using insulin, same thing is going to be happening. So it's really, you know, staying away from these super hardcore compounds. And I mean, you could take Superdrol and you could still look golden era, but you just look too much like a fucking like science experiment, you know? So another part of that too is the carbohydrates, is that, you know, now we eat a lot more carbohydrates than they were eating back then. All of the golden era bodybuilders, almost all of them, were on low carb diets. And that is an important part of their look, and the way that they look the way they did is because they're eating a low carb diet. Whereas bodybuilders today and the bodybuilding community today all says to eat a high carb diet. And we know how powerful that carbohydrates are in producing a crazy looking physique. I mean, just look at the pre, intra, post workout carbohydrate nutrition and dextrose protocol that I use. And you know how I've talked about like the gummy bears and everything during the workout, the Haribo gummy bears, you know, and you know, so many people, that's actually like why they've started listening to my podcast, because they tried that and they were like, damn, that works. And that got them interested in other stuff. And so, yeah, carbohydrates are definitely very powerful for looking big and freaky and monstrous, you know, and growing muscle. And absolutely, yes, they are. But when people ask about, you know, why do those golden era guys look different? And, you know, what was it about their physiques? You know, one thing that they're really leaving out is that low carbohydrate diet has a massive effect on the appearance of your body. Okay. And that was like a huge, huge part of the reason why they looked the way that they did. Okay. Was the low carb diet. So like, yeah, the steroids, they mattered. Yeah, the training mattered. But the low carb diet was like, you know, that texture that they had and everything, the texture of the physique. You can see the low carbs on their physique. Like, look at Pumping Iron. And if you go watch that show, and if you've run low carb diets before and seen what it does to your body, like a ketogenic diet, you can see that these guys are running low carb diets. So keep that in mind. All right. Jeremy asks, is 700 milligrams of test a week and 300 milligrams of trenbolone acetate per week good? Yeah, it's good. You know, pretty much anybody that takes that and goes to the gym and just like works out 4 days a week is going to start looking pretty quickly like somebody who's really serious about the gym. You know, sometimes that's the funny thing about it, is that, you know, if you want, you know, for a beginner, somebody who's like, you know, not experienced with gym, not experienced with bodybuilding, or maybe they are experienced natural with gym, but, you know, people don't like think, you know, does that guy work out unless he's wearing his Gymshark shirt or something? You know, if he starts taking 700 test and 300 milligrams of Tren and keeps on doing everything else that he's doing, he will just magically start morphing into somebody who everybody's asking for like weightlifting advice and shit. I'm serious, man. The drugs are very, very powerful. And, you know, none of us could be bodybuilders without the drugs. That's one of the crazy things, too, is that, you know, none of us were bodybuilders before we started taking steroids. And, you know, when bodybuilders go off the steroids, you know, they don't look like that no more. You know, so that's another one of these things where people are talking about like, oh, can you keep your gains off cycle or something, or keep your gains after cycle? And like, the answer is no. Like, the answer is that if you want steroid muscles, you have to be taking steroids. And when you stop taking steroids, the gains and the muscles that came from taking steroids go away. Okay. So this whole thing about, you know, that is like a serious thing right there, is that the steroids have to be taken. all the time. That's why people blast and cruise. Cycling steroids is a fucking joke, okay? If you're a serious bodybuilder, you have to blast and cruise because you got to have the steroids in your system all the time. Bodybuilders depend on steroids, and bodybuilding doesn't exist without steroids. Okay, Nate Webster asks, big fan of the podcast, definitely eye-opening. My question is, I'm currently on 1 gram of Sustanon weekly. I just started exemestane, 12.5 milligrams per day. I've been experiencing slight dizziness and shortness of breath. Is this normal? Should I reduce milligrams? I'm 6 foot, 235 pounds. Any advice is appreciated. So you're currently running 1 gram of Sustanon, and you're taking a little bit of exemestane, and you're experiencing dizziness and shortness of breath. So the first thing that I'm going to guess here is that you have high blood pressure because you're on high testosterone, and now you have dizziness and you have shortness of breath. And that can kind of happen like when you have high blood pressure. So check your blood pressure, get a blood pressure monitor. The ones that are really good are for bodybuilders are the wrist monitors. It's an electronic wrist monitor for your blood pressure because it doesn't, with your big arm or whatever, it doesn't, that can make it messed up. That can, if you take a blood pressure with your big arm. So you got to take it on your wrist instead. Better for bodybuilder, more accurate. You can get these electronic wrist monitors for under $50. And they take your blood pressure automatically. And it's very easy. And so you gotta take that. Bodybuilders should have that. And I've talked about this before that, me not controlling my blood pressure when I was younger, bodybuilding was a stupid thing that I wish that I could really go back and change. Very stupid. And now, now thank God, I'm able to deal with all this and everything now and not have that problem anymore. And, I definitely have that fucking blood pressure monitor, so sometimes, guys ask me, like I'm having nosebleeds and, I'm dizzy and I feel like I'm going to pass out and, should I reduce the dosage or am I okay? Do I need to check my blood pressure or something? It's like, bro, yes, of course you need to check your blood pressure. Or another guy will ask, my ass is purple. I took a shot 5 days ago. It's starting to turn black now. Should I go to the hospital? Yeah, man. But I understand I understand. I've been in these situations because look, when that thing happened with my leg where I had that really bad leg infection, where everything started necrosing and dying inside. And then I had to have all that fucking flesh cut out. That was from a steroid injection. And, so I left that there on my leg for, over a month, probably from the time it's first started. And then it became like a hole in my leg after like 1 month. At first it was just like a thing that was big and, raised. And then after like a month, it kind of like disintegrated and like turned into a hole. And I just couldn't look at it, but I had never had something like not heal on my body before. So I just kind of like covered it up with a bandage and tried to like not think about it or something like that. And eventually, I got into a horrible situation with that, and that was very not fun. But what I'm saying is what I'm trying to tell you guys is that this kind of attitude with bodybuilding where you try to just ignore it and try to be like, I'm okay, or like, I'm going to get better or something like that. And there's like serious things going on. Like I've been there and I know how that feels and I've done it myself. But you really don't want to do that because that's going to lead to being in bad situations. And it's good when you have a problem to just figure it out, Like you might have a blood pressure issue right here now. Okay, go test your blood pressure. Don't take any more guesses about it, Or you got a big inflamed spot on your ass from an injection that's turning black, and the skin, or on your leg and the skin's starting to disintegrate, go to the doctor, go to the hospital. That's how I think about these things now. Having had experience and gotten a bit older and everything. And, so hopefully other people can benefit from that. Don't just ignore it. Okay. Last question for today. Sean asks, I'm thinking of becoming enhanced. I want to be super strong. I'm about to turn 28. I've been training since 15. I'm 5'9", 250, very high body fat, 30%. My lifts are squat, 365 by 2, ass to the grass, calves touching hamstrings, bench press 350 with a pause, and deadlift 440. Nothing special. I'm wanting to cut to be pound for pound stronger and be lean and jacked. Maybe 180, 220. Should I cut naturally, lose strength, then get enhanced? Or can you cut for your first cycle, even being high body fat? Thought I'd probably stay on rather than cycle. Much love from Scotland. Okay, so here's the thing. When you diet as a natural, even if you've been able to build up a lot of strength and a lot of muscle tissue as a natural, which you can if you become high body fat, like this guy said he's been doing. But when you diet, you are going to take your body into a place of scarcity, okay? And so this metabolically expensive muscle is not going to be a tissue that when your body is in a moment of scarcity, that it wants to hang on to, okay? And when you diet and you're in these moments of scarcity, you become low testosterone, okay? When guys are on low food and they're losing weight and they're natural, their testosterone levels go down, okay? So just know that if you're natural, yeah, you've got normal testosterone levels when you're bulking, yeah. But when you go to cut, you are going to have low testosterone levels and you're going to have this metabolically expensive muscle tissue on you that you could only have because you were on a huge amount of over calories and, gaining body fat and everything before. And now when you try to reverse that situation, you are going to toast your muscle. It's going to be toast. Okay. So if a natural gets big and strong and then he cuts on steroids, he can keep that big and strong that he made natural. Okay. But if you don't, then all of that shit is going to be gone by the time that you're done cutting. Okay. It's all going because hormonally you're going to flatline yourself. So yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be, if you go on 500 milligrams of testosterone and you do your cut, you're not going to lose any of your muscle and your strength. You're not. And it's not going to sabotage your future gains or something like that. Actually, it's just going to save you a shitload of time because you know what? While those numbers that you said may not be big internet numbers, for the gym, they actually are definitely better than the vast amount of people that go to the gym and that you see in the gym in real life. So you have built something up here that is impressive for a natural and that's worth something. And that now if you just go and, diet and get rid of all of it natural, it's going to be hard as shit to build that back up again. If you would just take 500 milligrams of test, protect it, and get the fat off of you, and then start growing. After you're done with that, you add something keep going with the 500 test after you're done with your cut, and now add a Anadrol, 100 milligrams or something like that, and begin bulking up slowly. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome.
All right. So that's going to be the last question for the podcast today. It was fun talking to you guys. And I'll be coming up with another episode for you guys real soon here. So make sure to go pick up Ultimate Guide to ROIDS, 109-page ebook by Dan the Bodybuilder from Thailand. If you just go to bodybuilderinthailand.com, it's I think it's the first article on the homepage where you can check it out and read 20 pages. It's definitely worth it. It's my best content. If you like the podcast, the book will blow you away.